one tonight.
Oh, I'm feeling it. It just has to be.
Oh, look.
I haven't brought my chocolate, my dark chocolate. I wish I could share with you all. And it has cherries and almond. I need my energy to be up.
Wait, did somebody call for dark chocolate?
Look, I got my chocolate.
Right. Not right now.
Yeah, Suzanne is back. Suzanne is back.
Oh, she's back?
Or Noel, actually.
What are you talking about, Jezebel? What do you mean by that?
Oh, God.
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing, Suzanne. Yeah.
Jezebel's neither male nor female.
She's a character.
It sounds female to me, but not to challenge all the pastors. All dumped on the
it's
female.
always women. It's always women, so we know. All right, so guess what, you guys? We got another topic. All right, let's bring it in. Okay. Cheers, everybody. Will Howard, versatility, passion, and creativity are words that describe bassist, composer, producer Will Howard. Chicago-based, but nationally and internationally seasoned bassist. Will's unique combination of gospel roots, formal study, and wide-ranging musical interests have allowed him to work with a wide variety of artists. You're not supposed to laugh. Come on. Suzanne Cross is a singer-songwriter and has been singing with a variety of top-notch bands and organizations in the Chicagoland area for many years. She's a music therapist by day. She sings many styles with ease, including standards, blues, soul, classical, and her favorite style, rock. She did say the last time throwing some Etta James, so I can't wait to hear her. Anita Levels, a lover of communication and thought, a vocal artist, voice influencer, songwriter, and producer who began singing at the age of 3 years old. Her powerhouse, soulful, but lark-like vocals have graced national and international audiences. Anita has a master's degree in training and development from Carlow University, which is in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and believes that instrumentation and the voice have the innate ability to vibrate truth, healing, and thought.
Jonathan McAllister, born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, he grew up in church and developed as an extraordinary trumpeter and was first chair in his high school band. He brings years of relationship experience to the table and is willing to learn as well as share information which will hopefully empower others to experience success in their relationships.
Noelle Dodge has a master's degree in human services administration and is serving at-risk families in McHenry County. She has 10 years of experience as a trauma-informed psychotherapist with a background in substance abuse counseling and parent education and prevention. She is the creator of the self-discovery program Bond, Breakout, Not Down, and will soon be launching a self-paced online course.
Ezra Morris, singer and songwriter from New York, graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in Music from Columbia College, Chicago. He blends words and sounds to tell stories about the human experience. Luke McDonald is a pastor doing his best to love and live for Jesus in this crazy world. A graduate of Moody Bible Institute and Biola University, he founded Good News in the Neighborhood, a multi-ethnic Bible-teaching, life-giving church in the northwest suburbs of Chicago. His family is full and fun. Married to his high school sweetheart Christian for 14 years, they have 4 kids and says they are all intense and love sports, games, and the latest fun YouTube videos. Luke writes a weekly newsletter, Good News Weekly, that drops into thousands of inboxes every Saturday morning.
Let's talk about love. I believe that everybody wants to be loved. I mean, babies want to be loved. Every man wants to be loved. Every woman wants to be loved. Even criminals want to be loved, right? Mm. Even though they don't even know how to give that love, per se, but even they want to feel that they're loved. So in one word, I want to ask everybody, just what's the word love in one word mean to you? Mm. Just one word. And if anybody else wants to type in the chat, feel free to do that.
My one word I'm going to say is joy.
Joy. All right. I know, deep thoughts, right?
Acceptance.
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 Truth.
Mm-hmm. Mark said peace. Yes. I say
Truth.
security. Truth. Who's that? Will?
Mhm.
Will said truth. Pastor Luke said honesty.
I think freedom is love. Freedom.
Freedom is love. Yeah. Ezra said authenticity. Malvina said happiness. Amber said love is food for the soul. It keeps the soul alive. Yeah, all good.
Mhm.
All good. Now, let me ask each of you to tell me who taught you how to love? Like, who was your example? All right, Anita?
Wow, you know what? It was, wow. There was this really great interview with you all. Are you all hip with the Red Table Talk?
Yes.
Yeah,
I love
so
that.
There's this really great interview with, what's Jada's daughter's name? Why am I drawing a blank? What's her name?
I know, me too.
Willow and Michael Jackson's daughter.
Yes, I watched that.
Paris. Yes.
Awesome.
Yes. Oh, I would just want to hug that girl so bad.
Yeah, and there was this beautiful moment of just vulnerability. And she was extremely afraid. And the way she embraced her, in that moment, she leaned in and she just expressed so much grace and just so much, she just made her feel safe. And in that moment, I just welled up like, oh my God, it was just so much grace and love that was just expressed in that moment. She just made her feel so safe, and you could just feel it. It was so palatable. So I don't know, that's just the first thing I think of right now in this moment, just about when I think of times right now, even though that was a very recent moment of places in my life that I've seen love really expressed, even though it wasn't something that was expressed to me. But I'm really happy about the babies nowadays, that they're able to be like extreme, even though they're super, super emo-ish, you know, that's the term that they use now. Yeah. But even in their emo-ness, they're still leaning in to provide safety to one another. Yeah. And that's something in our generation we didn't know how to do. And I'm glad that even through the babies, we're learning to do that and learning to lean in and learning to provide safety and vulnerability to one another. Yeah. So I'm learning through the babies, through the Paris Jacksons and through the Willows, and even through my children, to be vulnerable and soft and to lean into one another and to be to provide intimacy and trust that the person with you will be a soft landing.
Can I build on that a little bit?
Yeah.
I think that so often generational differences or shifts are seen as being either good or bad. And I think what you've done that was so wise in what you just said, Anita, is that there's the part of the younger generation that is maybe a little too easily thrown off, a little too, I wouldn't use this word, but maybe some people would say soft, or like so in touch. You use the word emo perfectly, in touch with the feelings. And I think that there's some like negative things maybe that come with that. Sure, but the positive side of that is, just like you so well said, the desire to care and create space for other people. You see it all over the Olympics, if you're paying attention to that. All these ways in which people are able to convey how they're doing or how they're feeling or what's happening. And I would say love, non-sexual human love to other people in a way that I think, just like you said, was not as common maybe in previous generations. And I think going out of our way to affirm that, I think, is really useful. I appreciate the way you did that very much.
Yeah.
That same interview, and I know exactly what you're talking about. It was almost angelic. It was such it was beyond being an empath, and they discussed being empaths. And it was like beyond being an empath. And as a parent educator right now, I'm working with families that are in crisis, and I have, anywhere from, I have parents that are 15 years old, to people that are in their 30s. And I'm seeing that this 15-year-old little boy, he is at every doctor's appointment. He is at every ultrasound. He is a dad like
Wow.
I had as a role model for my children. Like, this kid is in it. And I'm so proud of them, and we're so embarrassed of their situation. And it's like, oh my gosh, like, you guys are modeling the standard of how a woman should be treated when she's pregnant. And so I've got to agree with you 100%. My son's in that category. He's 21 years old. That boy has broken me open in good ways that have really allowed me to see my not so soft side. And he did it in such a gentle way that I was able to accept that, recognize that, and be like, you're right. You know, my kids are 10 years apart. So my daughter, you know, she's 31. And when she was little, I'd say no. And she would just start crying, you know, and okay, just to please mommy, because firstborns want to please their mommies. 10 years later, I'd say no. He'd look right at me and he'd keep on doing it until I said, if that falls and it breaks, it could hurt your toe. Anyone who walks into the room is going to be told, don't touch that. He's now an advocate. And so I knew within that first year how his little brain works is, if you give him a logical explanation, you've got him on your side. And through me learning that from him over the years as he got older, even as a teenager, he taught me how to be a better human being.
Yeah. Ezra, who taught you to love? Your first example.
Yeah, my first example.
Which I know.
Are we going with the healthy examples or like?
Yeah, right.
Whatever you
what
thought,
I learned
whatever
first.
you defined it. Yeah, whatever you defined to be love. Right?
I guess family members, media, the world, music, like lyrics, like lyrical themes in music. Yeah, I'll stop there. Those are my first examples.
Yeah. So can you talk about love? Who was your first example? Oh boy, I'm sorry. Trigger?
Mr. Rogers.
Oh, wow.
Mr. Rogers. He was my, him and Donny Osmond. I had a thing for dark-haired men. But kind, gentle, understanding, patient men. That they really taught me. But by age 5, I had a lot of stuff. So I did till I was 3, which I think was selective mutism. You know, my name was changed when I was 1. So just when I was identifying who am I, when you say Jennifer, you're talking to me. And then they start calling me something else. My dad moved out of the house for 6 months. You know, lots of chaos. So I didn't speak until I was 3, but I didn't have a learning disability. And really the model that I was glued to was sitting in front of Sesame Street watching Mr. Rogers.
Wow. Wow. That's deep. Yeah.
Beautiful.
That is beautiful.
Rogers is beautiful.
Yeah.
He really, he has to be an ascended master now. He has to be. I mean, the gift that he was in this earth plane was absolutely amazing. He was a light to so many children. I know he was for me. And to be here in Pittsburgh, where this is
where it happened.
home. Yeah, and
yet his own children resented him. His own son resented him.
Wow.
And so that gives me it empowers me that even when my children don't see my value, as long as I'm working with families and as long as I'm helping families that are in crisis, it's natural for your kids to just take advantage of you or not see until you're on this earth, and it's like, and I know that, and I hold nothing, if we get that before, like with my son, he's great, and with my daughter too, like in their own ways, but it's like, as a parent, you think, don't you know who I am?
Right.
They know who we are.
Yes.
But even Mr. Rogers struggled with that. His own children didn't see his value, but the rest of the world he transformed. And sometimes we're here to break one another. We're here to break one another.
Wow.
And that in that breaking, we find who we truly, the essence of what love is. Nothing has taught me more about love than people who have absolutely ripped my heart apart.
Wow.
I think that's part of the lessons.
Because to still love them and be like, oh my gosh, I'll never trust you again, but I still love you. You taught me love.
That's a lot. Feel free, everybody else that's in the chat. I know that's pretty deep. Type your story of who taught you to love, and anything else you want to share, and I'll read it out. Luke, I don't know if you shared with us who taught you to love.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds kind of, I don't know, uninteresting, but I mean, my parents for sure, in a lot of ways, I think created an environment of acceptance and support, and like paying attention, presence, which I think is a huge part of love, is the just choosing to opt in to be there part. That's a huge part of how I learned how to love.
Yeah. Beautiful. Suzanne?
I would say parents, but in very different ways. I guess as a kid, I had a mind that never stopped turning. And I wouldn't say I'm a religious person, and here are two pastors probably looking at me, but I had a lot of spiritual questions. I went to church, Episcopal church, and I would ask my mom, what does this mean? What is God? Just talk. I talked and had so many questions, and she was very patient with me and explained it the best she could, age appropriately. And I would say she's probably my first. And now it's shifted to my dad. Now still, he's the most, as my girls say, their new term for a great person is he's so pure, or she's so pure. My father he's still living. My mom passed away 3 years ago. He's probably the most pure, nicest, most genuine human being. I'm going to get verklempt because he's still here. I see him every other day. He's probably one of the best human being. He doesn't even believe in God, really. I mean, it's not even about God. It's just when my mom died, he was trying to get some faith. He goes, well, what does it mean? And we're all we talk about this stuff all the time, spirituality and spirits and all this stuff. But despite his lack of religion and Christian God, he is the most pure, most awesome person. And he still is. And he's probably the best example of just pure love, authenticity.
Wow.
I think Ezra said he's the best person
I have to agree. I met him.
And he's a father to many.
Yeah,
He really is, to my sisters-in-law, whose fathers weren't as great, to my daughters who don't have a dad who's living. And I mean, he just is. So they're in different ways. And I didn't really know him as much. He was getting a master's and he was working his buns off for us growing up. And now I see him now, he's kind of mellowed out. He's at home all day and we just get in the greatest talks. So I am blessed and lucky to have a father like him.
Yeah,
he is just pure love and pure. He's pure, whatever that means, because he's still seeking and he's finally relaxing enough to wonder what God is. He worked so hard all his life so we could live a nice life and live where we lived. And now he's finally asking these questions. And I'm just privileged to be there with him to kind of shoot the breeze with him and figure it out with him.
What a gift.
Anyway, he's the best. He's the best human being ever.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Ever.
Foundations. Yeah. Foundation.
So I see that more now that I'm older, because he was just always gone and working and got another degree and was just never home. So now it's like this, it's great to have that relationship with him now. I'm there all the time. just hanging out, hanging with
Beautiful.
this dog, talking about life. And he's great. He's a great man.
That's wonderful.
Anyway,
Wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah.
that's my 9.5 to cents to $2 worth of.
Oh, it's awesome. It's awesome. I've met your dad and I love him. And I don't even I hadn't gotten a chance to even spend that much time, but just there's something that just oozes from him. And especially one that grew up without that security and all that. He just gave me that warmth, that
he's got the dad vibes, but he doesn't try to be the dad vibes. He's the most self-effacing guy ever.
Oh my God, that's beautiful. Just who taught you to love? Because and Ezra is such a loving spirit. I mean, his soul, his energy, his vibe, and we just clicked. I mean, I met him in 2015, and again, he's young. He's much younger than me, but
he's an old soul.
He's an old soul.
As grounded.
And I can't let him go. There's something beautiful about him. So,
thank you, Char. I'll say my mom taught me how to love first. My mom came to this country from Jamaica, pregnant with me, unsure of what she would meet on the other side of the ocean. And as I'm saying this now, I realize like how much of a sacrifice that was for her. And growing up, I always felt like I could explore. Like she was like my biggest cheerleader, at least when it came to, like I was really excited about school and like reading and doing my best. And she always, it was like we were best friends. It was me and her. She made me feel excited about all these things. She's my first example.
Oh, what a great example.
Yeah.
And you've grown up to return that same love to her. I love how committed and dedicated you are to making sure she's okay. Yeah.
By the way, that's so authentic because you smiled. Your body language, you smiled the whole time you were talking to your mother.
Exactly.
So I just wanted to note that.
Yes. Thank you. It hasn't been without its challenges. I'll say that. I definitely want to be clear about that.
No relationship is, yeah.
And I'll say I'm learning about love from that relationship in particular, in a new way now that I'm older. I think someone said something about being present, like just saying you're going to be there. Like, well, this happened, but I'm still here.
Yeah.
Choosing to love a person despite conflicts and disagreements. That's been one of my biggest teachers in life thus far.
Yeah. Awesome. Mr. Will Howard.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, by the way, my condolences to you and your family. It's such another devastating loss.
We had a death in the family. Well, we've had, in the last month, we've had 2 deaths in the family. But just to share, my grandniece, which is one of my nieces, I have twin nieces. One of them passed away, and then earlier in July. And then last Friday, we got the news that my grandniece had been found dead. And she was only 26.
Jesus.
Oh my God.
What?
And we don't know really what happened. We're still trying to find out what happened, and the authorities are not being very cooperative. She had a rough life. She was born with fetal alcohol syndrome, and she had been in the streets, but it doesn't matter because she's still a person.
Yeah. That's right. Absolutely.
And it's kind of frustrating for me because my nature is, okay, well, what happened? What are we doing here? Just having the authorities tell, like, basically they're just like, well, that's what happens to people like that. And so we're trying to figure out what direction to go with that, because I kind of want to publicize that, because that's a common attitude that happens in my community, and in the Black community. It involves policing. It involves a lot of things, and it hit home because this is my relative.
Right.
So I'm dealing with that. So we're dealing with that. But thank you for your
Sorry, Will.
condolences.
Yeah, praying for you, for you guys.
To answer your question, I think it's Luke. Like Luke, I have to say my parents. My parents had a unique relationship. As an adult, I see it's unique. My mother had her first child, I think, when she was 18 or 19. She was married. She had 5 kids. And then her husband didn't want to act like he was married. So she left her. This is in the 40s and 50s. I think she got divorced in 1950. And at the time, you didn't do that. You stayed, you took it. If your husband didn't die, but my mother was like, not today, and had 5 children, and raised her 5 children. Then she met my dad when the older kids were maybe teenagers. And because my mother didn't believe, and she didn't want her daughters to have a stepfather or something to that regard, they dated for like 10, 12 for years. And so like my dad is the person who taught my sisters how to drive. They refer to him as like, I'm Little Willie. That was Big Willie. My dad 14. So my father was actually older than I am now when I was born, which freaks me out. You're like, how do you have a baby? A baby, but he was born in 1914 in Arkansas, in Mississippi. So he had a very hard life, extremely hard life growing up. He had a full-time job when he was 9. He was brilliant. He was like this brilliant guy who only went to 4th grade. He went to Memphis. He walked across the bridge to Memphis at 15 and basically raised himself completely from 15 until he was almost 40 when he came up, and he came up north in the 50s during the Second Great Migration. So when he and my mother met in, I guess, the late 50s, the fact that my father was like this, he wasn't a bitter person. And I've struggled with this because I'm bad at everything. And he was never mad at anything. Not really, but they had, my mother was my father's 3rd wife. He outlived all his wives. But so by the time I came along, things were kind of settled down. That's why I said the relationship was unique, because they had went through a lot of stuff. So now they were just settling down and like having a good life. And then they got this little crazy kid that pops up. I'm a surprise baby. So my mother was 46 when I was born.
Oh, wow.
So, you got to think she had her first child at 18 and her last one at 46.
Wow.
So that's
a big gap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so be careful. My mother used to tell people that all the time. My mother used to tell women that all the time. Be careful. But because of the fact that I guess I was a child, or I missed a lot of the drama that they might have had. Love looked different to me because love was about caring for somebody. And love was about accepting people for who they were. Like my mother was a handful, but my father never had an issue with her just because he knew how to handle it.
Okay.
Like, he knew how to talk to her. He knew how to let her talk and do her thing and be mad and fuss. And then he was no pushover, but he, and then he would be like, okay, I heard you, that's enough. But without it being like, shut up. But it was just like, okay, I get what you're saying. Let's move to the next point of this.
Right.
And I have to say, in my own relationships with women in life, what I learned is you have to find the right person to do that with. Because that's not how everybody's wired. And you have to figure that out. Like a lot of times it's not just changing your behavior to work with the individual person, but sometimes it's that you need to find the individual who your behavior works with. In a more natural sense, because we all want to evolve, but sometimes it's this dramatic change of like, well, if you can't love me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. That's not me. That's not me, because I need you to be trying. So I love that from my parents. It's compromise, it's listening to each other, it's making the best decision for both of them as a unit, as opposed to the very individual way that we deal with things now. And so
Okay.
that's it.
Okay. Hey, Melvina.
Sorry.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So happy to have you.
It's good to be here.
Jonathan, do you want to share? The question is, give us one word to describe love. And who was your example? Who taught you to love?
So I would say the word that I best match with, that I think is synonymous with love, is unconditional. Basically, I see three kinds of love in the biblical setting, which I base a lot of what I believe around. And I think, when they do the scientific studies and what have you, they find that a lot of things match up with basically the pattern of one man, one woman relationships that were, established in biblical context. But there's a word eros, which refers to physical or sexual love. The word eros was commonly used in the Greek speaking world of New Testament times. Philos means warm, affection, or friendship. Agapeo is the sacrificial, unconditional love of God. And I think basically my parents were I think all of us would agree that in our home setting, or wherever you happen to be born, wherever you start in life, foster care, adopted, biological parents, you find out what love is in those settings, or at least you become familiar with what we would like to think is unconditional love. And so my parents came from a background where my dad was one of 12, and they had lots of problems because the dad was in and out of their lives. My grandmother basically raised them herself. And my mother had challenges, as you said. I think, is it Ezra or Char? You guys are saying everybody has challenges in their journey to find unconditional love. But basically, as you get older, you begin to realize that the parents gave you what they knew to give you, and they gave you their version of unconditional love. And so I believe that my mom and dad, with all the challenges that they brought into a marriage and into raising their own kids, did a pretty phenomenal job of giving us, the best that they could. And so that would be my answer.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Good stuff. It's kind of, it's so weird. It's like I'm doing all of this because I grow from hearing everybody else's stories, because I feel like I'm just beginning to live for the first time in my life, because of all the experiences I've been through. And when I think about who taught me to love, I have to say, I don't even remember much about my mother when I was younger. I don't remember experiences. Until the person that I learned to be loved by was my sister's father. Actually, I didn't know he wasn't my father then, but he loved me so much. I only had him for the first 5 years of my life. My mother said when she was pregnant with me, because when she met him is when she was already pregnant, and I guess she told him the story, and he was determined. He did not want this baby to come into the world not feeling loved. So he was determined to love me. And she said there was such a bond from the womb that when he would walk in the room, I would just start moving like crazy, like I'm trying to get to him. And when I was born, our bond, we were just so tight. And everywhere he went, I wanted to be there. I would cry when he left. When he came home, I would just be so glued to him. But it's crazy because love even though he showed me that kind of love, I've been having like this PTSD thing, you know, all these traumatic experiences coming back and rehearsing themselves. And I remember him, he was abusive to my mom. And I remember there's this visual in my head, I never talked about it. And he had a plank, he had a big wooden plank, and she was on the ground and he was beating her. And I'm standing there as a child. I'm standing there and I'm watching this. So the man who loved me so much, I'm watching how he was treating my mother. When she finally gave her life to God and she dove into, you know, church stuff and became Christian just wholeheartedly. She walked away from her past and she gave her life to God completely. And he was pretty mad about it. And he came into the church with like, he had a gun, you know, and this was a big church. And she was like the main singer and she's standing up on the platform and he's threatening her. After that service, no, she didn't cry for help. You know, she didn't ask me to help her, but we got on the bus as we normally would. It was late at night and he got on the bus with us. And I remember he dragged her on the ground by her hair. And we walked right behind her watching this. So it just makes me think now why, I don't know, like what I think, what is love? It's twisted. I can't even really say that I even really know what that is. Because then unfortunately, when she left him, unfortunate for her, but when she left him, I was left with a hole because she knew how close I was to him. I remember when I asked, where's daddy? And she said, you're never going to see him again at 5 years old. And I was like, and I just stopped talking. And I didn't talk because I knew what my life was going to be like, you know? And yeah, so I'm just, you know, digging deep and I'm still trying to figure that out. I'm still trying to figure that out. And it's miraculous that I even learned how to love my children, you know? Let me take that back. God, I have to say, I cannot deny the existence of a creator, a divine presence, because as a little girl at 6 years old, I remember I just leaned into that. And I remember I just felt this awesome presence sitting in church, just feeling so lost. And the preacher was preaching about something about your father. He's your father, he's your father. And I just embraced that. And in that moment, I remember that connection, God and I, that connection, we made that bond. And God has carried me all the way through. So anyway, before I get really emotional, so I'm still figuring out what that looks like. So let's move on.
That's honest.
Something. Yeah.
That's honest.
Yeah.
It also explains a lot, like you were talking about last week with your mom. I mean, from the time of your conception, and then this man that beat her that absolutely adored you and you adored him, and that feeling of betrayal. It really explains a lot of her anger.
And I'm wise enough now, again, I cannot deny the existence of God because that is how I've been able to process. Nobody's telling me anything. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So you can't deny that God is real. Amen. And the truth. And because I'm like, I told God, I don't want to live in anger. I do not want to live in anger. I don't want to be a bitter person. So just show me how to get through this. And I'm wise enough to know.
I'm so proud of you. Really, I am. That is a choice. And that is where free will comes in. And we all have the conscious choice to let hate grow fruit or let love grow fruit. And that is a conscious free will choice. And you did it.
It is a choice. It's a choice. I feel good. Good. I still get angry every now and then, but I feel good.
Well, yeah.
You know what else, Char, I'm thinking about just too, I think it's really important just through that inner child work, because just really talking to Char, the inner child Char at 5, and forgiving yourself, because you were 5, and even forgiving yourself for even loving, because now you're like, why would I love him? Why wouldn't you love him? Why wouldn't you love that man? You're 5. He was your father at that time. Like, why wouldn't you love him? Yeah, he was an abuser, but why wouldn't you love him? He was the person who loved you. That was your father.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, Char, I was a child advocate for 7.5 years. I sat at the table with mothers who literally killed their children.
Ugh.
I worked at a law firm, and those cases that you see on TV, those CSI cases that say these cases, I was that. I was a forensic person.
Wow.
And I would read I was the one who would have to talk to psychologists and psychiatrists and interview children and actually sit at the table with mothers who would kill their children and would have to sit and talk to the children who were left in the aftermath of the mothers who killed their sister or their brother, and try to figure out how can we pick up the pieces of the family and you know what those children always say? I want to go live with my mom. 100% of the time. I've never, children that have been molested and raped by their mothers, their fathers, they have never said, I don't want to go back with my mother, father, never. It's always been, I want to go back with my mother, father. Now, I'm not saying that's not in the best interest of the child. I'm just saying, forgive yourself, because in the child's mind, they just want what they know and what's safe to them in that moment.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That child is always want to go back home. What they know. What they know. So forgive her. Just forgive her. You know what I mean? Because when you forgive her, so many other things. He was an abuser. You know, he was so many things, and you know, but really start forgiving yourself.
Yes.
All the decisions that you have made.
Maybe he learned
what information that you had at that time. Start within yourself. Start there. You're not going to be able to really branch off and forgive anything else until you really start dealing with those things, you know.
That's what I've been doing. Really, so funny that you say that, because I have it written in my notebook. Nurturing little Char.
Oh yeah, she's so beautiful.
Nurturing little Char.
She's a survivor. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and if you don't parent her, then the 5-year-old Char is the one running your life in crisis. She's in charge. 5-year-old Char's in charge. It's time for 50-year-old Char to take charge.
That's right.
And nurture 5-year-old Char, but not give 5-year-old Char all the power and control in your future.
Right, right.
You know, Char, he may have learned about love from you. That may have been the only love he experienced at that time. With your 5-year-old pure spirit, you know what I mean? We always think as children, children are little teachers. I met this South African man the other day. I was with a patient. This guy, I forget he's from South Africa, and he spoke, I can't remember what language. Nelson Mandela speaks what language?
South African, Zulu, probably.
No, it's not Zulu. He said it's got clicks. It was some language I'd never heard of.
Zulu.
Zulu?
With all the clicks and he had the most beautiful face, and he just looked at me, and I could tell he wanted to talk about life, and I'm down. I'm always down. And the patient's sitting there. I'm working with a music therapy patient, and he just said, "Your children are little teachers. We think we're here to help other people, but boy, they come through us and they teach us." Yes. And he just kept staring at me, and we kept talking and more, and he just had the most interesting comments. And it just reminded me of something he said, that maybe you taught him how to love. Maybe he didn't know how to love or what it was. Yeah, I'm not excusing the behavior towards your mother, obviously. It's almost like a separate, maybe you were a window for him of love. That purity of a 5-year-old, beautiful 5-year-old child. Yeah. Just a thought.
Yeah, no, that's a good thought.
Everybody. There's everybody.
Noelle, I got to check those out. Is she unmuted?
Dr. Shefali, The Awakened Family, is about conscious. It's about allowing your children to teach you about you and being a conscious parent. and to, like when your children trigger something in you, which usually comes from our childhood, they're actually teaching us something to heal from our childhood. Where we think we're here to parent children, they're actually here to heal our childhood wounds. And that's why grandchildren are so darn enjoyable, because it's about us.
They don't come with lessons.
The other one is Iyanla Vanzette, the forgiveness course. This changed my life. It helped that I spoke to her too, but this changed my life. And so I will borrow this to you if you like. I would
love to. I could even get it myself and we can do a book club read on it. I would love to. I'll check it out. Yeah. All right. Well,
21 days. In 21 days, you can forgive anyone in 21 days. It's a 21-day practice.
Yeah. For me, it's not even the forgiveness part. It's just at this age, trying to process the truth, you know, because for so long I've lived a lie, not intentionally. So I reason why I asked about love, you know, who we gravitate to in relationship when we move into committed relationships. I think what we were taught about love is what we bring into that, you know. So I had a few questions I have. Do you believe in the one, your forever, your missing piece?
Nope.
No. Anita says no.
I think I'm the one.
All right.
I do. I'm the missing piece. I think that once we self-actualize within ourselves and once we work within ourselves, then we attract what we conjure within ourselves. I just don't think there is the one. I think we work on whoever the one is. That's within ourselves, and we work on that. I don't think there's a one. We work on relationships that we want to work on in our lives. I think we bought into that, and I think that's why a lot of our relationships aren't working, because we're trying to find the one, and when the one doesn't work, we quit. But I think all relationships require work. And the number one relationship that we're to work on is the one we have with self.
Yeah.
That's the one. That's
true.
That's
number
my
one.
concept of it.
Right.
And whoever the one is, there's more than one out there. There's just too many fish in the sea, too many people in the world for there to just be one.
I would say that puts a lot of pressure on the other person to complete you. Ooh. When you are not complete within yourself.
Exactly right.
Dude, they could spill ketchup on your white linen sheet and the whole world is over, because they were supposed to be that piece that completes you. I mean, what you're basically effectively doing, you need two whole people, and that's not always even possible. None of us are completely whole to come together. But I think at least in the spirit of maturity, where you understand that another person cannot make you happy if you're not happy already. Another person cannot complete you if you're not complete already. What you should be looking for is a journey of discovery, of learning, of unconditional love and consideration and hospitality and patience. And if you understand what love actually is, because when you say, who loved you? Have you felt love? What is love to you? Then we need a great explanation and definition of love. And I think 1 Corinthians 13 shows the God nature of love. When you get a chance, read that. 1 Corinthians 13, love is patient, love is kind, and so on and so forth. I'm not saying put yourself in a position where you're taken advantage of or abused, but if you're looking for a missing piece, dude, I hate to be that missing piece when you find it, because chances are it will not fit in any of all the places that you need to be filled up. That's just my 2 cents.
No, that's a great 2 cents. And it actually makes sense. You know, most of you know, that's my, Luke, I think you're the only one that doesn't know. That is my ex-husband. I don't know if you put it all together, but it makes.
Can I throw something into that?
Yeah.
I think that sometimes, I'll say it as the pastor, church folks have contributed to this problem. With this like God's will for your life kind of idea, that God his will for your life is for you to find the bullseye on this dartboard. And if you don't, he's mad at you and he's gonna punish you. And that's not a biblical idea. That's I'll stand up for the Bible for a second. That's not the Bible's fault. That's people holding the Bible's fault. But I think that causes such damage to people, this idea that you see so many younger people today paralyzed in decision making about love.
Yeah.
Because they've internalized this idea that, like, if I miss the right person, then my life is ruined. And then as they date and they don't even call it dating, they call it hanging out or whatever. My parents called it necking, it always changes the terms. But as people spend time with more and more and more people, if you're looking for the one, this person that you eventually find has to be better than all the people that you sort of passed on in search of the one. And we just got to put that whole idea, I think, for people to bed. We got to put it away, because it's just not helpful when Hollywood can take some blame too, but I'll let the church take some blame on this one. So that's what I wanted to throw into the mix.
Yeah, thanks. Great.
I want to, since I didn't talk a lot, I want to interject very quickly into that as well. Sometimes I go into the relationship looking for a missing piece from my life and subtract 5 pieces from the person I partner with. We got to understand there's a big picture here. Amen.
Amen.
I just want to say something. So Jonathan mentioned something about missing pieces. I talked to CHAR. CHAR was about 2 weeks ago when we talked?
Yes.
About a week ago. So I'm a writer. I have
She's an amazing author.
Mm-hmm. And my 5th book will be released August 14th. And it's about healing. And the title of this book is Missing Puzzle Pieces. What are the pieces of the puzzle that's missing when you're going through something? Whether it's you and a friend, just relationship broke up, somebody that you've been friends with forever. You lose a parent or a relative, through death or something, or a relationship with a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, whatever. It could be anything about work, you and your kids not getting along. It's anything that you're going through. What are the missing puzzle pieces that's not in your life that you need to find? So it's actually a book journal. So I made it a book journal because I had a really bad breakup that I shouldn't have been in the first place. But so that actually helped me heal. Writing, I wrote that in like 7 days, literally 7 days. So that's just confirmation that I'm manifesting that this book is going to be super big.
Yeah.
That it's going to be big because a lot of people need this. Men, it's for men and women, and men don't want to admit that they do hurt and they go through things and they need healing too.
That's right.
I wrote it for men and women.
I think men are starting to self-actualize. I think they're starting to come to the realization of that slowly but surely. I think they're starting to
open up,
lean into that a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's important.
When I met CHAR, she was the first girlfriend I ever had, and I haven't been in a relationship since. But when I met her, I felt pretty much complete, but I felt that she completed me in the sense that we were compatible and so on and so forth, not even knowing everything about one another. But I think knowing who you are, and that journey has been an ongoing process, finding out who I am, not taking CHAR personally. When she left me, I've had to evolve into a mindset that, okay, she did what was best for her. And so I've had to come to the realization that, hey, you're not the reason CHAR left. She left because that was best for her. Knowing who you are, understanding how you treat people and how you love and respect people. Not that any of us are perfect, but the idea of being completed, again, I have to reiterate and reemphasize, understanding who you are. You're complete. And I take this idea in God. You're the DNA of God. He made you complete. However, you can be enhanced And I believe relationships are designed to be partnerships. I do believe men carry the greatest responsibility in the sense that a lot of times men are very ignorant about what their role is and who they are in relationships, and therefore cannot operate at the level that many women do in relationships, because by the very nature of a woman, not in any way, in a negative way, there's a relational design that women have, the nurturing and nurturing, and just the fact that you guys spend all of your years playing with, growing up, playing with baby dolls and thinking about homes and this, that, and the other.
That's
At
not
least in
always
the
true.
old, at least